On March 8th, President Biden signed an executive order relating to gender policy. I will read to you the executive order as follows. Executive Order on Establishment of the White House Gender Policy Council. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1. Policy. Advancing gender equity and equality is a matter of human rights, justice, and fairness. It is also a strategic imperative that reduces poverty and promotes economic growth, increases access to education, improves health outcomes, advances political stability, and fosters democracy. The full participation of all people, including women and girls, across all aspects of our society is essential to the economic well-being, health, and security of our nation and of the world. It is therefore the policy of my administration to establish and pursue a comprehensive approach to ensure that the federal government is working to advance equal rights and opportunities, regardless of gender or gender identity, in advancing domestic and foreign policy, including by promoting workplace diversity, fairness, and inclusion across the federal workforce and military. This order is intended to advance gender equity and equality, with sensitivity to the experiences of those who suffer discrimination based on multiple factors, including membership in an underserved community. Section 2. The White House Gender Policy Council. A. There is established a White House Gender Policy Council within the Executive Office of the President. B. The Council shall coordinate federal government efforts to advance gender equity and equality, including policies and programs to 1. Combat systemic biases and discrimination, including sexual harassment, and to support women's human rights. 2. Increase economic security and opportunity by addressing the structural barriers to women's participation in the labor force and by decreasing wage and wealth gaps. 3. Address the caregiving needs of American families and support the care workers they depend on. 4. Support gender equity and combat gender stereotypes in education, including promoting participation in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM fields. 5. Promote gender equity in leadership. 6. Increase access to comprehensive health care, address health disparities, and promote sexual and reproductive health and rights. 7. Empower girls. 8. Prevent and respond to all forms of gender-based violence. 9. Address responses to the effects of the coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, on women and girls, especially those related to health, gender-based violence, educational access and attainment, and economic status. 10. Advance gender equality globally through diplomacy, development, trade, and defense. 11. Implement United States government commitments to women's involvement in peace and security efforts. And 12. Recognize the needs and contributions of women and girls in humanitarian crises and in development assistance. C. The Council shall work across executive departments and agencies to advance gender equity and equality and provide a coordinated federal response on issues that have a distinct impact on gender equity and equality. The Council shall also work with each agency to ensure that agency operations are conducted in a manner that promotes gender equity and equality to the extent permitted by law. D. The Council shall provide legislative and policy recommendations to the President, evaluate other proposed policies and legislation for their potential impact on issues of gender equity and equality, propose improvements in the collection of data related to gender and gender identity, and suggest changes to federal programs or policies to address issues of significance to women and girls. E. The Council shall, consistent with applicable law, conduct outreach with and consider ways to increase coordination, communication, and engagement with representatives of a diverse range of nonprofit and community-based organizations, civil society groups, and faith-based organizations, state, local, tribal, and territorial government officials, labor unions and worker organizations, private sector representatives, foreign government officials, multilateral organizations, and other interested persons who can inform the Council's work. F. The Council shall be led by 2 co-chairs designated by the President, one of whom shall also serve as the Executive Director of the Council, Executive Director. The council staff shall also include a special assistant to the president and senior advisor on gender-based violence and other sufficient staff as may be necessary to carry out the provisions of this order. G. In addition to the co-chairs, the council shall consist of the following members. 1. The Secretary of State. 2. The Secretary of the Treasury. 3. The Secretary of Defense. 4. The Attorney General. 5. The Secretary of the Interior. 6. The Secretary of Agriculture. 7. The Secretary of Commerce. 8. The Secretary of Labor. 9. The Secretary of Health and Human Services. 10. The Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. 11. The Secretary of Transportation. 12. The Secretary of Energy. 13. The Secretary of Education. 14. The Secretary of Veterans Affairs. 15. The Secretary of Homeland Security. 16. The Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. 17. The Director of the Office of Management and Budget. 18. The United States Trade Representative. 19. The Administrator of the Small Business Administration. 20. The Director of National Intelligence. 21. The Representative of the United States of America to the United Nations. 22. The Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy. 23. The Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs. 24. The Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy. 25. The Assistant to the President for Economic Policy. 26. The Assistant to the President on National Climate. 27. The Assistant to the President on COVID-19 Response. 28. The Chief of Staff to the Vice President. 29. The Chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. 30. The Chair of the Council on Environmental Quality. 31. The Director of the National Science Foundation. 32. The Administrator of General Services. 33. The Administrator of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. 34. The Chair of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. 35. The Administrator of the United States Agency for International Development. 36. The Director of the Office of Personnel Management. And 37. The heads of such other agencies and offices as the co-chairs may from time to time invite to participate. H. Members of the council shall designate within 30 days of the date of this order a senior official within their respective agency or office who shall coordinate with the council and who shall be responsible for overseeing the agency's or office's efforts to advance gender equity and equality. The Director of National Intelligence shall designate a National Intelligence Officer for gender equality who shall coordinate intelligence support for the council's work on issues implicating national security. The co-chairs may coordinate subgroups consisting exclusively of council members or their designees under this section, as appropriate. 1. Each agency shall bear its own expenses for participating in the council. There are further sections to this executive order, however, they go beyond the scope of this video. If you would like to read the rest of the executive order, you can do so as the link is in the description below.